It's been over 2 years since the original AirPods were released, and they've quickly become the most popular pair of wireless headphones in the world. So many people, myself included, have been waiting patiently for a refresh, and that's exactly what Apple gave us on March 20th, although the product didn't receive as dramatic a change as some expected. That's why many reviewers are calling these the AirPods 1.5, because supposedly next year Apple will release new AirPods again, except with major changes like a design overhaul, a black option, a matte finish, and maybe even touch controls. But for now, let's unbox these new AirPods and see what they can do and compare them to the original. This is Greg with Apple Explained, and if you want to help decide which video topics I cover, make sure you're subscribed, and these voting polls will show up right in your mobile activity feed. And don't forget to check out our new iGenius plush doll available at appleexplained.com. Now, these new generation of AirPods are the first to offer buying options. You can get them with a wireless charging case for $200, a standard charging case for $160, or you can buy the wireless charging case by itself for $80 and use it with your previous generation AirPods. But one thing you cannot do is put a first and second generation AirPod in the same case. I bought the $200 model with a wireless charging case from my local Apple store the day they went on sale, and I didn't run into any issues with limited stock like I did back in 2016 with the original AirPods. So let's start with the packaging. You'll probably notice not much has changed with the AirPods 2, except that if you purchase the model with the wireless charging case, it'll have that listed right at the top. Also, the lightning cable that was featured on the back of the original AirPods box has been removed, likely to suggest to customers that you don't need a cable to charge this model, although it does still feature a lightning connector and cable in case there isn't a wireless charging pad nearby. Now, after we lift the lid, we're greeted by the familiar sleeve of Apple literature, which, by the way, features text in a darker shade of gray than the previous generation and even has a touch of color inside the manual. But unfortunately, these AirPods still don't come with any Apple stickers. Underneath that is where you'll find the main event, the AirPods themselves tucked away inside their charging case, which is beautifully cradled in a cardboard insert. And lastly, we have the lightning cable, which, like I said before, is still included despite this model featuring wireless charging. Although I should mention, none of the AirPods being sold today include a wall adapter. Now let's move on and explore these new AirPods in more detail. Its design is virtually unchanged except for a few small tweaks. First, the LED indicator has been moved from the inside of the case to the outside. That way you can quickly peek at the AirPods charging level without having to open the case. It still uses the same color indicators. If the AirPods are inside, orange means the earbuds are charging, while green means they're fully charged. Once the AirPods are removed, the LED indicates the battery level of the charging case. Green means it has enough battery for at least one full charge of your AirPods, while orange means it doesn't have enough battery for even one charge. And when the charging case battery is at 100%, it'll deliver 4 full recharges to your AirPods, which means you can use the earbuds on and off for about 24 hours without having to connect the charging case to power. And it takes just 15 minutes of charging to provide 3 hours of audio playback to the AirPods. Now, there are a few other minor design changes that you might find interesting. If you owned the original AirPods, you might remember the lid making a clicking noise when you moved it side to side, as you can see here. And this wasn't a flaw affecting just a small percentage of users, it was normal behavior for every unit. Now obviously this wasn't a big issue since it didn't affect the product's functionality in any way, but it sure was annoying for many people. Well, I'm glad to announce that the new AirPods 2 charging case no longer clicks. Another small design change has to do with the magnets. You see, pulling the original AirPods out of their case was a point of frustration for many users, especially those with larger fingers, mainly because the earbuds were slippery and hard to grip, and also because the magnets that held them in were pretty strong and required a good yank to remove. But these new AirPods have magnets that are a bit weaker, so removing them is much easier than before. Lastly, the thumb scoop on the charging case has been made steeper, so it's easier to catch your thumb on the lid rather than missing and sliding off. So those are all the external changes made to these new AirPods. Now let's talk about the internal changes. Apple has equipped these earbuds with a new H1 chip, which replaces the W1 chip featured in the original AirPods. Now, what do these chips even do? Well, actually quite a bit. The original W1 chip allowed for easy pairing with Apple devices, maintained the connection between both earbuds to ensure audio stayed in sync, established a strong Bluetooth connection with its paired device, and worked with built-in sensors like the accelerometer and optical sensor to know when they were inserted or removed from your ears. And the new H1 chip does all those things and more, and does them faster. For example, the new AirPods will switch between your devices twice as fast, as you can see here. They'll also pair with your Apple devices twice as fast, and they'll have 30% lower latency while playing games. The H1 chip is also more power efficient, so you'll enjoy 3 hours of talk time instead of the previous 2, but these AirPods deliver the same 5 hours of audio playback since Apple decided to introduce a new feature called Hey Siri, which eats up that extra power efficiency. You can activate the voice assistant hands-free, which used to require a couple taps on an earbud. But there is one catch with this feature that I want to mention, and that is, if you tend to use Hey Siri with an iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, or HomePod, then you may find the feature quite a bit slower on the new AirPods. Now that doesn't mean Hey Siri is useless on the AirPods. I love being able to make voice commands when my hands are full. But the delay is something I had to get used to. And if you're someone who just doesn't use Hey Siri on any of your devices, and you still don't use it after buying these new AirPods, then I'd recommend disabling the feature altogether in the settings of your device. That way your AirPods will get a couple hours of extra battery life. Just like the previous generation, you can still activate functions like Siri, play pause, next track, or previous track by double tapping on the designated earbud. Now when it comes to audio quality, there has been some confusion since Apple put this on their website. So whether you're playing games, listening to music, or enjoying podcasts, you'll experience higher quality sound. Now, many people took that to mean the new AirPods had better sound quality than the previous generation, but Marques Brownlee actually reached out to Apple and received clarification that there was no changes to the AirPods sound quality. Now let's discuss one of the features I'm most excited about, and that is wireless charging. All it takes is a wireless charging pad to set the case on, and the orange LED lights up indicating that it's charging. And while I was disappointed that Apple canceled their AirPower wireless charging mat, which would have gone so well with these AirPods, there are still nice alternatives like the Nomad base station, which allows you to charge your AirPods, iPhone, and Apple Watch simultaneously. Now, setting up these new AirPods can be done even faster than before. If you have an Apple device, simply turn it on and open the charging case. A window will appear, then all you have to do is tap Connect and you're done. And thanks to iCloud, your AirPods will automatically appear on every Apple product you own. But if you want to use them with a non-Apple product, you'll have to hold down the pairing button on the back of the charging case and locate the AirPods in your device's Bluetooth settings. Now there is one last point I want to make that applies to all wireless earbuds. The batteries they run on are very small. Each AirPod contains a 93 mAh battery in its stem, and the benefit of this is quick charging time, but the drawback is that their capacity begins to degrade noticeably after a year or two of heavy use. Today, my old AirPods that I purchased in December 2016 only deliver about 2 hours of audio playback before losing battery, which is a significant amount of lost capacity in just 2 years. But the nice thing about these new AirPods are that they are more power efficient, so I plan on turning off Hey Siri after a year or so once the batteries start to degrade in order to try and offset the lost capacity. So considering everything we've covered in this video, what are my final thoughts about Apple's second generation AirPods? Well, if you never owned them before, now would be a great time to buy. And if you already have a wireless charging setup for your smartphone, I think it's worth purchasing the wireless charging AirPods just for the extra convenience. If not, the $160 model would probably suit you best. And what if you already owned the previous generation AirPods? Well, if you recently purchased them, I would recommend waiting to upgrade until next year, since that's when Apple's rumored to be delivering an update with some pretty dramatic improvements. But if you are an early adopter of AirPods and you're experiencing major battery degradation, it might be worth upgrading to this new generation in order to enjoy a full 5 hours of battery life again. Now, if you want early access to my next video, be sure to join our Patreon community, and don't forget about our new affordable iGenius plush doll available at appleexplained.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.